Hi, I'm Kevin Reger, and I'm here to speak on Edgar Cayce on healing. So, Edgar Cayce had a lot of readings over the course of his life. Readings are what we call when he went into a sleep and was asked questions and he was able to respond. Basically, when asked how he was doing this, he said that he was reading Akashic record information. So it's very interesting, but it's interesting enough, I guess, that over the last 80 to 100 years, thousands and thousands of people have been studying and trying to write additional information based on what they found after going through these readings and testing them out. So hopefully you will enjoy what we have to say. This is just an overview of all the different things that he talked about that referred to health. So this is one of his readings. Thy body too is indeed the temple of the living God. Keep it beautiful. Be mindful of the care of the same, and you too will think more of it. So will there be more of the abilities to be conscious of His presence, meaning God, meeting with thee in thy temple. Forget it not. So this is one of the key things about Cayce, is that we really do have a holy vessel. This body here is connected to God, and we're filled with the miracle of life, and we need to be aware of that and trying to encourage that connection throughout our whole lives in the way we eat, the way we exercise, the way we think, everything.
I'm going to move over there.
Okay.
I was going to have you move over, but I thought, well, you're all set up for the camera, so I'm okay.
So has everyone heard of Edgar Cayce? Mm-hmm. Okay. Most people in these kinds of circles have. He was the most documented psychic of the last century. He gave over 16,000 sessions, and every word was recorded and is still able to be researched now. The vast majority of these sessions were for health readings, and these are the readings that earned Edgar Cayce the reputation of being the father of holistic medicine. Because throughout these readings he stressed over and over again that body, mind, and spirit must be healed together. They're all part of a problem if our body is not healthy, and they're all part of the solution if we want to become healthy. So, as far as how he gave these readings, he would lie down and put himself to sleep. They would give him the subject's name and also the address of where the person was. And if that person wasn't in that place at that time, he wouldn't give the reading. He would say, no, the subject is not there. And sometimes they would sit there for 20 minutes or half an hour, and all of a sudden he'd say, the subject has arrived, we're ready for the meeting. And someone would go out of the room and make a phone call. And they'd say, I got so delayed by traffic, there was an accident, I just walked in the door. So, I mean, he could actually sense this from halfway around the world sometimes. So that was really kind of interesting. So he would say, yes, we have the body, and then, especially for a health reading, he would give an overview of the person's health, including their blood supply, their nervous system, any organs that were affected, and then detailed methods of relief. So the relief could vary through all kinds of things. I mean, it includes prayer, meditation, osteopathic treatments, chiropractic treatments, changes to diet, all of these things. In fact, some of the most amazing readings were things that you would never ever guess. Like someone was actually, I'm trying to think of what the word would be, but to them, they thought this person was insane. I mean, they were uncontrollable. They were suffering from dementia, and he looked at the body and he said, "You need to have an adjustment done to the third and fourth vertebrae." So this person was hit by a baseball, and this has caused a hernia in the discs, and over time, this dementia has developed because of that. So I mean, it was years and years before, and a couple chiropractic appointments, and this person was back to normal. I mean, just incredible. I mean, things that you would never ever imagine that modern medicine today would figure out, you know. So, attitudes versus activities. Cayce always suggested that our health has to be treated holistically. There's that body, mind, and spirit connection to all states of health, and we cannot treat the physical without addressing the whole person. And you know, there were a lot of people, just like today, there were a lot of people that didn't like that answer. You know, they want a pill or an operation or something, and then they want to be able to go on with their life just as normal. And Cayce over and over again said that you know, your mind is what got you sick, and your attitudes and your emotions have to be corrected to enable you to heal. Yeah.
We can't see the screen.
Oh.
You scooch over a little bit.
Is that enough? Okay. Okay, attitudes versus activities. So what we eat and how we exercise is important, but it's no more important than the attitudes and the emotions that we hold in our lives. So Cayce said physical remedies could be effective, and he often mentioned diet, chiropractic manipulation, sometimes surgery, but he said the attitudes and emotions had to be addressed at the same time. There is much more to be obtained from the right mental attitude than by the use of properties, things, or conditions outside of self. And by those, he's really talking about this medicine, chiropractic work, surgery, whatever. So unless these are in accord with the attitudes of the body. So I think that we're actually getting to that point in medicine today, where people really do realize that there is this emotional and mental side to healing as well. But especially back when he was giving these readings, it wasn't really very well understood at all. So here's another reading. All healing comes from the divine within. Thus, if one would correct physical or mental disturbances, it's necessary to change the attitude and let the life forces become constructive, not destructive. Hate, malice, and jealousy only create poisons within the minds and souls and bodies of people. So he was a big one on hatred and malice and those kinds of things that would just cause problems in the physical body eventually. You couldn't hold those attitudes and stay healthy, not over time.
Kevin, do you want a dialogue, or should we let you present?
No, please feel free. Feel free. I wanted to get into it a little bit before we started question and answer, but yeah, this is fine.
Because that all healing comes from the divine within. I think you're right that we are starting to, and the medical profession, the attitudes and emotions are really important. Unfortunately, then they look at the brain and all this neuroscience, and they're going to try to come up with a drug to treat the emotions, the attitudes, or
right.
But both. I mean, the medicines come from the divine, the person from within. So that's just my fear. You're right about them understanding more about emotions and attitudes, but unfortunately.
You're right, they do tend to try to come up with a pill that will fix it all. But I'm really encouraged that they have things like Reiki and meditation and massage in actual clinics and hospitals now, though. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Who would have ever thought that 20 or 30 years ago?
Biofeedback, it's used a lot.
Yes.
You just have to choose and be your own advocate,
Yeah.
because there will be the people looking for the pills.
I am recently retired from Kohl's, and last year they had a big push that they were encouraging everyone to meditate. So now their meditation was more of a still the mind for a minute every morning, but it's still very encouraging that a big corporation like that would be that forceful in making a recommendation like that to all of its employees.
It's a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it is.
What did he say about addiction, for all the things that go on related to that, alcohol and drugs, and in our world today that seems to be such a huge piece of what people struggle with. Did he ever talk about that?
You know, I'm sure that he did, because people were addicted to all kinds of things back then as well, but I'm not really aware of anything. I really would think that he would talk about attitude and prayer, you know, because he would feel that that would be one of the most important things, but I don't know for sure. Do you know anything about that part?
Well, I know on the ARE, the Association for Research and Enlightenment website, you can search conditions by name, and then they will give the readings that are related to that. So there's probably something there.
Right. Right. So these are the things that he talked about that were all related to our health. Diet was the first one. Assimilation, meaning taking in the nutrients from the food that we eat. Elimination, get rid of the waste products, getting rid of those from what we eat. Exercise, relaxation, spiritual health, and mental health. So he felt that all of these were connected, and we had to do the right things with all of them to stay healthy. So Cayce talked in terms of alkaline versus acid producing foods. So I know you were talking about alkaline water over there. So he said that we should have a diet that consists of 80% alkaline producing foods and only 20% acid producing foods. So in practical terms, that really is very similar to like the Mediterranean diet. You really want to emphasize fresh fruits and vegetables. You want to go easy on the carbohydrates, stay away from fried foods. If you're going to eat meat, like fish and eggs, and maybe poultry in small amounts is much better than eating pork or eating beef. And he again and again he stressed that leafy vegetables, especially, and fruits should be a big part of the diet. So veggies. As far as what is acid producing, all of the things that you're not supposed to eat are acid producing. Alcohol and tea and coffee, I have a slide on that. But maybe I'll just go through this and I think it'll become apparent. So these are all alkaline producing. Fresh vegetables, especially leafy vegetables, fruits and legumes for protein, small amounts of eggs, fish or chicken. Yogurt and buttermilk and raw milk are okay for dairy. Cheese is not good. Processed milk is not good. Quinoa, buckwheat and millet, and steel-cut rolled oats were the only grains that were actually acid-producing. So all of the other ones, that any other grain you can think of, rice, wheat, you know, those things.
Quinoa, really?
Yep, quinoa. So those are the things that you should try to minimize in your diet. Alcohol, coffee, and breakfast tea did not make the list. So, too bad. But he did say that coffee was, if you drink coffee alone, it can be a food. He said never put cream or milk in it. So that is a combination that isn't good for the body.
Does he say why? That's not good for, you know.
No, just that it's not good. So the more the food is fresh and the less processed it is, that is, the better it will be for you. So it's kind of interesting that he was talking about that, 80 years ago, because I don't think that anyone really was thinking about that much before. He also said that local foods hold the same vibration as your body, and that the closer to your own location that the food that you eat is grown, the better it will nourish you.
That brings to mind what some of the shamanic healers say too, to use the plants and to eat and use the medicinal plants that grow in your region. And that's because of the vibration.
Right. Yeah, so I think that's really an interesting thing. So
growing gardens is really important.
Yes, and go to the farmer's market for what you can't grow.
Right.
So I guess that's a lot better than eating Mexican tomatoes and California, you know, cucumbers, whatever.
Can you go back to the slide before that? Did it say to avoid yogurt as well as?
Yogurt is good, it says.
Is it
Okay.
Yeah, yogurt is good. Yogurt, buttermilk, raw milk. are
Oh, and
okay.
quinoa is okay,
Yeah, quinoa and
Yeah.
buckwheat millet.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I thought,
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought
He
quinoa
got it
was
mixed, he was saying it in reverse.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, you missed
Yeah.
it.
Oh, sorry.
So
Sorry.
quinoa is okay.
it is okay.
Yeah, it is okay.
Quinoa has like twice the amino acids. It
Right.
has 18 essential amino acids,
Right.
whereas meat just
No.
has 9.
And
Okay.
you're on record too.
And on record, correct.
He's just proving he's human.
Yeah, that's right.
Otherwise,
Right, yeah. Well, read the slides, I
And we
guess.
love you just the way you are.
Okay.
right.
So yeah, I'm amazed at quinoa though, just because I thought this was like the new superfood that everyone's discovered 10 years ago or something. And
Ancient.
yeah,
It's an ancient grain, right?
right.
And if you ever weed in your gardens around here, it's growing in your garden.
Is it really?
Is that right? Sure. Pigweed,
Oh.
amaranth, that's the
It's
same
in the
thing.
same family.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Amaranth is growing around here?
Yeah.
That's a great grain.
Amaranth is a little finer grain than quinoa. And quinoa, the Incas actually refined it. It was considered food for their elite.
Are
Okay.
all those gluten-free, Tricia? Sorry. Oh, are they gluten?
I don't
I
know.
don't know what it is. But quinoa, I think, is gluten-free.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
pretty sure quinoa is.
And
I've heard that.
buckwheat is not wheat,
Right, okay.
so
maybe.
I would guess that.
Yeah, buckwheat is okay. Buckwheat
Yeah.
is gluten-free. Steel-cut oats, they might be processed where
Yeah,
things
that
that
you have to
have
watch.
gluten are processed. They have to be careful,
Oh,
but it
otherwise-
itself would be all right.
Yeah, oats by itself is gluten-free.
And millet's okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know about
As
that.
long as it's organic. They did a test of like Honey Oat Cheerios recently, and it had 800 times the safe level that what the EPA said was supposedly safe for glyphosates.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
Was it that
apparently
honey?
they spray the oats as well
Or
as
the
wheat
oats?
with glyphosate.
Yeah.
And they spray them right
Yeah.
prior to harvest, because it seems to dry out the wheat more, and then more wheat falls off the shaft, and they get higher yield, more
Oh.
profits. And so,
They should be lovely.
yeah.
yeah, 800 times the safe level is pretty high.
Yeah, I guess. Wow. Okay, here's a few things that you can do that aren't even hard. Drink 8 glasses of water every day. That helps your body cleanse itself. Eat, this is a quote, "He that would eat 2 to 3 raw almonds each day need never fear cancer." So I have a handful every morning, raw almonds. They're delicious. So,
I bet.
well, I heard that there is, even if eating nuts helps you lose weight.
Yeah. Nuts
Yeah.
are good.
And 3
Nuts and seeds.
macadamia nuts have zinc. If you eat just 3 macadamia nuts a day, has
Okay.
selenium. I'm sorry, not zinc, selenium.
Oh,
Selenium, which is really essential too for the immune
yeah.
system. And they
Macadamia
have
nuts.
zinc too,
Okay,
but for
great.
sure, selenium.
So there's a cardiologist that recommends no nuts. But, so if anybody's heard him, somebody did ask him, do you really need no nuts? He said, well, you can have like 5, but how many can
Yeah.
just eat 5? So it's better just not to eat any.
Hmm.
So, I mean,
Okay.
because we need
What
some
cardiologist says that?
Esselstyes, whatever it is.
Really?
Yeah, my husband's vegan and he's just like, no oil, no nuts, no,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But somebody did ask him, and, it's interesting how doctors think they need to think for us, instead of telling us, okay, you can have 5, but no more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Or why?
And what's the other one? Laetrile comes from the What fruit is that? Apricot nut or seed.
Yeah,
And if you eat just a few of them, but you can't eat more than, I think it's 5 at a time, because they have too much arsenic.
Arsenic, right?
So it's good to eat.
But they will
Or-
help prevent cancer. If you like have a history of cancer and you buy them and eat like 5 a day, it's
The
good.
pits,
How do
It's-
you,
Yeah,
Upper pits.
yeah, not the.
the inside
Yeah.
seed.
how do you eat it? Do you
Yeah,
grind
there's,
it?
you can find them at Outpost. Yeah, they look like nuts. They're like the inside of the pit.
And you just eat it like a nut?
Yeah, and they taste like a nut too. They're kind of bitter.
Okay, so Casey said that it's really not good to drink water while you're eating, at least not very much. But the one exception to that is drinking warm water with a slice of lemon. So that was very good to aiding your assimilation while you eat.
In Chinese medicine, that's true too. They don't drink water with their meal, and they certainly don't drink ice water or
Okay.
anything cold until they've had warm things.
Ah, okay,
So,
great.
Is room temperature okay?
Room temperature
Should be a
is-
little bit more. The water.
When he's talking about warm water, he's talking about almost like tea water.
Oh, okay.
So this was something that he recommended for losing weight and reducing your cravings to eat food in general, and but especially for sweets. That's 1 ounce of Welch's grapefruit juice or grape juice and a half an ounce of water. And to just drink that maybe a half an hour before you have a meal.
It doesn't have to be Welch's though, right?
No, that just happened to be the brand name
Yeah,
that he
it was
mentioned
pretty common.
in the reading, but.
Okay.
Okay. So, tomatoes. He loved tomatoes. So, make sure you eat them. More vitamins are obtained in tomatoes than any other growing vegetable. They should be vine ripened or they could be canned. So, he's a big fan of eating tomatoes.
I think it's lycopene or isn't it?
Lycopene.
Lycopene.
Don't know.
Yeah.
So here's a few other things that he mentioned. Plenty of those foods that supply calcium to the body. Raw carrots, cooked turnips, all characters of salads, especially watercress, mustard greens, and the like. And he said, eat cereals that carry the heart of the grain. I'm not exactly sure what he means with that, about that, but he also said vegetables of the leafy kind and fruits and nuts.
Flaxseed would be like part of the grain.
Okay.
yes.
Flaxseed?
Like bran.
Okay, sure. Yeah, well, that makes total sense. So, yeah, don't forget your lettuce. So, here's another reading. Plenty of lettuce should be eaten by most everybody. It acts as a destructive force to most of those influences that attack the bloodstream. It is a purifier. And again, he says, use at least 3 vegetables that grow above ground to 1 that grows below or under the ground. So I'm assuming he's talking about potatoes and carrots and turnips. You know, you want to eat the vegetables that are growing above the ground 3 times as much as you eat those. And I don't know why, but as much as everything else that he said makes sense, I guess I'm trusting it, you know?
Probably more antioxidants, more vitamins than minerals, but you need both.
Oh, okay. That could be.
I think the things that typically grow underground that we eat, they're the tuberous roots, so they're also the heavier in carbohydrate
Carbs
load.
You're right.
You know,
That's
things
for
like
sure,
that.
that's
And he's
true.
always emphasizing the leafy greens or the fruits, and everything below ground is really a storage root.
I think there's something about the chlorophyll in the leafy greens above the ground too, that I think is really helpful for our bodies.
So, assimilation. So it's one thing to eat the right foods, but how they're consumed can impact how they can be assimilated. So I thought this was a very interesting reading. True, the body should eat and should eat slowly, yet when worried, overtaxed, or when the body cannot make a business of eating, but is merely eating to pass the time or just to fill up time, it's not good. The food will not digest properly. So I mean, I can have 2 handfuls of peanuts and I look down and the jar is half gone, you know. I mean, that's just eating to pass the time. I mean, talk about popcorn and snacks while you're watching TV or whatever. It's but he says when you're worried, don't do it, and when you're just eating to pass the time, don't do it.
And maybe you shouldn't be talking to people, like because you should just focus on eating,
Oh,
maybe?
he does. I'll get to a couple things that he does talk about an attitude of eating, you know, towards eating as you eat. That bringing your mind to that has an impact on the food you eat and how well you can digest it, how well the body can use it. What thou eatest, and well, this is it actually. What thou eatest, see it doing what thou wouldst have it do. It is the consciousness of the individual body that causes different effects under different conditions. And so the body is builded. Is it to gratify just an appetite, or is it taken to fulfill an office that will better magnify what the body, the mind, the soul has chosen to stand for? You can see that whole body is a temple. This is, you know, he's couched this whole reading in very holy terms, and really that we should have a goal in life to be bettering ourselves and helping others, and that's why we should be eating, to get the energy and the strength and the health to do that, but not to just do whatever we feel like. Does that make sense?
And we're really conscious of our food helping us,
Right.
as conscious as we can of our food
Yeah.
doing to help us.
Right. One who fills the mind, the very being, with an expectancy of God will see God's movement, God's manifestation, and the wind, the sun, the flowers, the inhabitants of the earth. And so the body is builded. Is it to gratify just an appetite, or is it taken to fulfill an office that will better magnify the body, the mind, the soul is chosen to stand by? So that's the full reading, I guess. So, after we assimilate the food, we still have to eliminate what's left over. So there's a lot of readings that focus on elimination. And you'd like to think that your body is just made to do that, you know. You take it in, you use the nutrients, and you get rid of it. But if you get out of whack, and of course the people that were coming to Cayce were people who were having health problems, at that point it really was necessary to focus on elimination to get the toxins out of the body. So there's a lot of different ways that he talked about. High colonics and enemas were one of his favorite topics. Using the purging apple day diet, or three-day apple diet, that was a big one. And I have friends that go on this diet at least once a year. So I'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute. But it really is just what it says. For 3 days you just eat apples. And it clears the whole body. You can eat as many apples as you want, but it will clear the body out. He talked about deep breathing was important. And I can't help but think of how important breathing is to all kinds of shamanic traditions, Eastern traditions.
Tibetans have a lot of breathing techniques.
Yes, for sure. And even with Cayce talking about preparing for meditation, he has a breathing exercise that you should go through. So he also was very big on castor oil packs for digestive problems. Just, you know, putting them on your intestines, your stomach, that kind of thing. Sand packs would also pull the toxins out through your skin. Sweat baths, the same thing, and deep massage. So he said there's really 4 ways that our body eliminates the waste that we don't need. And 1 is the lungs, 2 is the kidneys, 3 is the bowels, and the 4th one is the skin. So you should think about all of those as organs that are really helping us stay healthy. Do not allow the system to pass even a day without the body throwing off the dross through natural channels. So I think he's saying stay regular.
Right.
So, and then here's the recommendation for the apple diet. 3 days of raw apples only. Then on the last day, take a half of a cup of olive oil. And this will cleanse all toxic forces from any system. So the one thing that my friend told me is that always do this on a weekend because you're going to be in the bathroom a lot.
There's a gallbladder purge that I had heard of, and has anybody else heard of it? A lot of people that are more into holistic health have used it. And I know a nurse who told me that her firsthand, her gallbladder was very inflamed and she was going to have to go into surgery, and she utilized it. And it consists of apple juice and olive oil and lemon juice in certain proportions.
Okay.
And it causes the bile ducts to relax enough to pass the stones.
Oh.
And so she averted, having to have emergency gallbladder surgery.
Wow.
She just put it together right away and drank it down. It's kind of difficult for some people to drink down, but yeah.
Is it apple juice or apple cider vinegar?
No, it's apple. I'm not sure.
Because I
not sure,
did one for a
actually.
while which had apple cider vinegar as
It could
part
be
of it.
apple cider vinegar,
In warm
lemon juice,
water.
and olive oil, some warm water. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And another thing about enemas, I don't know if anyone's heard of the Gerson treatment for cancer, Dr. Max Gerson. Well, he came up with this protocol in Germany prior to the Nazis coming through, and he was Jewish, so he had to flee, but the German government was going to sponsor his research because he cured his own migraines, which he had been severely afflicted with in medical school, with a juicing diet, and later he added enemas, and he added some other things too in his protocol initially, and his patients that had tuberculosis were cured of tuberculosis.
Wow.
And then those that had cancer as well as tuberculosis, their cancer lesions disappeared. And that's why the German government was going to fund more research, because we didn't even have antibiotics yet until after World War II for tuberculosis. Right. So then he went to New York, and they didn't like him too much, the AMA, and we were just coming up with radiation therapy for cancer at the time. So they took his medical license in the state of New York and kicked him out, basically there. But he went down south and established some clinics. And his daughter, who's in her 90s now, is still carrying on his work in Baja California, Mexico, where there's a lot of alternative cancer hospitals. And she opened about 30-some years ago a nutrition clinic. And they started doing research on why his method works. And at the University of Minnesota with enemas, they found out that with these retention enemas, where and people hold the enema for like 20 minutes, then it goes through the liver about five times, and it's stimulating the liver to increase its production of glutathione 600%. And glutathione is what's needed for the N killer cells and the T killer cells of the immune system.
Oh my gosh.
So, we're getting more research done on these alternative and more holistic and nutritional approaches. Now in this age we have, more ability to do the science.
How do you spell his name?
Dr. Max Gerson, Gerson.
I think it's S-H-O-N, Gershon.
No, it's definitely G-E-R. It's either S-O-N or
Or it could be S-H-N. Could be E-N too.
It's either O-N or E-N, but it's
S.
definitely G-E-R.
G-E-R-S-O-N or S-U-N or S-E-N? Okay.
S-E or O-N.
Gerson.
And Dr. Max. And he also, this is also very interesting too, he presented the results of 50 cases before Congress in the 1950s. And when they researched for his biography, that should have been in the Library of Congress, and it was removed.
Oh.
And there was also like a talking head on the radio that the next day announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a cure for cancer. We had testimony in Congress yesterday," and blah, blah, blah. That guy was fired the next day.
Wow.
And the testimony where he had the x-rays and he had, you know, all the diagnostic, you know, confirmation and before and after. And his manuscript was at one point stolen. He had to rewrite it from scratch because he didn't have, you know, anything like copy. And the actual testimony has since disappeared from the
I'm
Library
so
of
glad we
Congress.
have freedom of speech in this country. Wow.
When did Edgar Cayce live?
That's,
When did Edgar Cayce live?
he died in 1945,
Okay.
and he was born in the late 1870s, I think.
Okay, so about that.
Yeah, Wikipedia said 1877.
Yeah.
But he just kind of practiced quietly, right? He didn't really make a big deal.
Yeah, because
I think
you know,
that's the secret.
people came, they would write a letter to him more often than not, and then he would just do a reading for as many as he could.
Yeah.
So I mean, he died in his early 60s, and it basically was because his heart went out to all these people that were suffering, and so he couldn't stop giving readings, even though they'd do a reading for him that said your health is suffering, you are going to have an early death if you don't stop this, and he just couldn't stop. So I love these quotes. It's common sense, but still I love the way he put this. Do not eat like a canary and expect to do manual labor. Do not eat like a rail splitter and expect to do the work of a mind reader or a university professor. So, and then this one on the bottom is a little concerning. Those that lead a sedentary or non-active life cannot go on sweets or too many starches. These should be carefully balanced. So I don't see any rail splitters in the audience. Well, maybe you are. You're the closest I can think of. But yeah.
I'm a very good.
Yeah, maybe it's time to get rid of all of the cookies in the other room, or just make sure
I
we
didn't see anything.
Yeah, we just eat a few, right? Yeah, he never says you can't eat any. He just says you really need to be careful about how many you eat. So exercise is also important, and the good news is that the exercise that he recommended the most was walking. He just said that will do the most good for you. And he also recommended light yoga and stretching. Walk in the morning in the open. This brings better activity of oxygen and ozone so as to keep the balance of the blood flow through the lungs and the heart and the liver and the kidneys. So I think he really felt fresh air was an important thing, so we should be walking outside and not in a circle at the mall. So after breakfast, work a while. After lunch, rest a while. After dinner, walk a mile. So that's one of his quotes that get repeated often, I think. But it's all about balance too, you know. You don't do too much of any one thing. So this is the one where he's talking about stretching. So the exercise that we would follow for this body would be the stretching, much as the manner as the exercise of a cat. Stretching the muscular not as strains, but as to cause the tendons to be put into position for the formation of strength building to the body. And I think he's really talking about just like the claw kind of a thing, like the stretch and the reach for the sky, you know. I mean, it really does feel good. Let everybody do it with me here. Just reach up and kind of claw and just stretch your back out.
I was doing that all day.
Were you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Painting.
Pardon?
Painting.
Oh, painting. Okay. Remember, the body does gradually renew itself constantly. Do not look upon conditions which have existed as not being able to be eradicated. Hold to that knowledge and don't think of it as just theory. The body does renew itself. So that's really again, this is where the mind is as important as everything else. You need to believe that your body has the ability to heal itself, and every cell is changing, all the time. He said every 7 years, all of our cells in our body are completely replaced. So the person you were 7 years ago physically doesn't exist anymore.
Except the brain, right?
Oh, I
Pretty sure
don't
the
know.
brain is,
No, the brain is a lot more plastic than they used to say it.
Oh, yeah?
It was because they used to say with brain injury patients that they could not renew their gray or white matter. Like after a certain age, we didn't produce any more brain cells. And now they've proven that wrong. Yeah.
I don't think it renews itself though, like, the skin and other, right?
Well, they've
But,
done
I mean, they did
MRI
the-
scans, like when they did some research on lion's mane mushrooms in recent years, and they found that there was both an increase in gray and white matter.
Right, but not as much. I mean, does it replace itself every 7 years? Did they say?
The brain?
Right.
Well, it really depends on the nutrition probably, because if it has the ability to grow, it really depends on how.
But I know they used to think that what we had, the bronze,
Right.
We're
but
fixed,
but not anymore.
Yeah. All I'm going by is that I've heard this quote from many speakers, but I've never heard them talk about anything other than just that. This in general, not in any
And how
specific
come they
organ
didn't
or
have that
whatever.
research when he lived?
No,
Whereas now, we hear that repeated, and it's not just coming from Cayce. It's like-
right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
coming from others as well. You're right. So, here's a question. How can I improve my vision? He said, head and neck exercises can be helpful. Do these each morning and evening. Don't hurry through it, but take the time to do it. So, these are, there's more than one set of head and neck exercises that he's talking about, but this is the one that I use, although you can see it's not perfect. But then again, I don't always do it. I try to do it at least every day, but I don't always do it in the morning and the
you're not
evening.
blind.
Yeah, I'm not blind. So why don't we just do this together? You can just follow my lead. So we want to sit upright, and I'll just stand upright. Stretch the neck slightly upwards, and then just drop the chin to the chest, and then back upright 3 times. Nice and slowly. And then you want to tilt the head backwards, chin towards the ceiling, and back upright. And you do that 3 times. And then we tilt the head towards one shoulder, and then back upright. That 3 times. And then the other shoulder, and back upright. If you're doing this right, you should be able to actually feel the stretch all the way down to the pelvis. Then you want to drop the chin to the chest, and then just rotate a nice easy circle all the way around 3 times in one direction. And then 3 times in the other direction.
That will help our vision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna start doing it.
It's helping my neck too.
The other thing that can help is this exercise where you stare straight ahead, and then you look up, straight up, and back down, up, back down, up, back down, and then look to 1 o'clock and do the same thing. And then look to 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock and 4. So you do the 12 things in a row. And by the time you get to even 6 o'clock, your eye muscles will be sore. I mean, you will actually feel that. And I really think that's one that will help strengthen the eye muscles to the point that you'll be able to focus better if you do that consistently.
So do you go from 1 to 7?
No,
Or 1 to
the
6?
way I learned it was just 1, 2, 3,
Oh,
just
oh,
all in a
just-
giant circle all the way around until you
Okay.
get back to 12.
Okay.
So keep going even though your eyes get tired?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, keep going even though your eyes get tired.
3 times
Yeah,
each number?
And then do you go in the other direction? Like, look at the 11 o'clock position and go reverse
that's
it?
not what I do not remember doing that, but there's certainly no reason why you shouldn't do that, or maybe you do it, in the morning you do it one direction, in the evening you do it the other direction. So, but it will get to you, but it's, I think it would make a lot of sense.
Do you go all the way through the middle when you do it, or do you just go back to the middle?
Just top to middle, you know, to basically staring straight ahead, you know, and
Okay.
then up and then
Yeah.
like that. Okay. Cayce said that with the proper attitude and diet, mankind could live with good health and energy well past 100 years. So I think we're starting to see that now. However, there's so few people that actually have a good diet and, you know, and can keep a proper attitude that I think we're sabotaging ourselves too much. It's, you know, fast food has just become too seductive. But he said that is true. And he did say that, like in the Bible, you know, 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, where they said people were living to be 200 years old or 500 years old, he said, no, that really isn't the true age that they had. They just didn't age. They didn't deteriorate as they aged. So, interesting. I just heard somebody talking about this on NPR last week, that we could live to be 120 years old and be very healthy. You know, that there's I think that he was saying that there was some, like, vitamins or stimulants or something that they could inject us with or feed us that would do the same thing. But then he said we have to come up with a plan for why we want to live that long and what we're going to do, because otherwise we're going to have some big problems. And one of those things, I think, was that we don't spend our whole life accumulating things, because if more people are going to be on this planet, we need to live more simply.
Who was it who said that?
I do not remember. It was a doctor that was on that with this. He had just completed this study, but I don't remember it.
Okay, thanks.
All the details.
I wonder what he would say about all the computer time and, you know, TV time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's- Doesn't seem healthy.
Yeah, it doesn't. So he said relaxation was very important. So he said the worst thing you can do is to work all the time. You know, you need to have relaxation. It's important for your body, your mind, and your soul. But he actually said that this seems counterintuitive, but he said you should concentrate on relaxing yourself. So concentrate upon the relaxation as the greater or the better manner for anybody to relax. See the body relax consciously. Let all the tension, all the strain flow out of self. So he's talking almost like a preparation for meditation or something, or
Well, that's
maybe for
like
sleep.
mindfulness,
Mhm.
mindful of
Yeah.
relaxation.
Right, it is. But, you know, think of how many tips there are for taking a break at the workplace when you're stuck in front of your computer all the time, and you're supposed to take that time to stretch and to relax and to get up and walk around for a moment. I mean, it's very similar to this. But yeah, I would say mindfulness is really at the key of much of this information. Just as recreation and rest are necessary for the physical, so it is necessary there's recreation and rest for the mental too. The body is supposed to coordinate the spiritual, mental, and physical. He who does not give recreation a place in his life and the proper tone of each of the phases, meaning spiritual, mental, and physical, He just fools himself. Someday he pays the price. So I wish that he would have given some more specifics of what that proper tone is, but I think he really is just saying that you need to have balance in your life, and you need to take the time to nurture your spirituality. You need to take the time to encourage your creativity and do things that you really enjoy mentally, but also that you need to do the same thing physically to maintain a proper balance and a healthy life. Any questions about that? Sounds pretty ominous though. So someday he pays the price.
But she kind of did, right? He worked himself.
Yeah, you're right. He did.
Right.
Yep.
He was so
So,
driven.
Healing is affected by attitudes. The readings repeatedly suggest that health and attitudes are connected very closely. So keep company that is cheerful, pray often, and live like you pray. Be kind, be gentle, be patient. Do not be fault-finding with others because you have to wait for this or that. But do know that you have much to do, much to be accomplished in this experience. So it's funny that keeping company that is cheerful was one of the first things that came out of his mouth. And then being kind and gentle and patient. Those are things that we maybe take for granted, or we think those are wimpy attitudes, or, but he said they're very important. So I think that's good. So I think I may have mentioned this one before. All healing comes from the divine within. If you correct the physical or mental disturbance, it's necessary to change the attitude and let the life forces become constructive and not destructive. Hate, malice, jealousy only create poisons within the minds, souls, and bodies of people. So Cayce actually said that the attitude with which we live is way more important than what we eat. So even though we tend to think about, here's this long list of food, and this is exactly what I'm going to eat, and this is what I'm going to prepare for every meal. Well, he said that the attitude that you hold is much more important. And then too is this idea that that you're mindfully eating as well. So he did not always follow his own rules. One of the things he loved was pork, and he smoked a lot of cigarettes. And but he said, if I have such a low vibration myself that I cannot raise the vibration of this pork chop, then I'm a sorry excuse for a human being. So he just thought he could pray that away, that and raise the vibration. So according to Cayce, be kind even on your bad days.
How long did he live?
He lived, I think he was just a few months shy of his 65th birthday. He was 64 when he died. Now, one of the things you have to realize, boy, the last 15 years of his life was the Great Depression and World War II. So people were hurting so much that he really took that to heart. Like, what can I do to help people? And there were so many people asking for help that I think that it just finally drained him. So it's interesting with Cayce, he was very poor almost his whole life. He was always trying to find enough money to build a hospital, to keep this work going, to have a clinic, even to feed his family. And no matter what he did, he could never hold on to money for long. And he asked about that, and he was told that in the last life that he lived, he was a gambler that used his psychic powers to cheat other people and win at cards, and also to have success with the ladies, like a lot of success. And so this time around, he was determined. It was his soul's goal to not let money be seductive, and that he was going to do it the right way. So I think he succeeded. So, spiritual and mental health. First then, there must be that correct attitude towards the creative forces. Call it spiritualism, divine science, God, Christ, or whatever name. Know that self can be and is by heritage a part of that first cause. So that sounds very theosophical, I think. Yeah, it's very interesting because Cayce often would talk about God as the Father, like a Christian, the same way as the Christian God. But then he would turn right around and he would call God the creative forces or the imaginative forces. And to him it was all the same. So it's very interesting. So this is another one. There is much more to be obtained from the right mental attitude than by the use of properties, things, or conditions outside of self, unless these things are in accord with the attitudes of the body. So that's where he said sometimes you may need to undergo the knife, or you may need to take medicine or some other thing. But if you're going to do that, you have to have the right mental attitude for being ready to be healed, being ready to be whole, and what you're going to do with that health once you obtain it again. So, a young woman was told to use her imagination in visualizing the healing force working in each part of her body to accomplish what was desired. And she was to do this while she took the recommended treatments that she had for her healing. So, I thought that was interesting, just this idea that we need to use our imagination. Because Cayce really said that, well, he said that the mind is the builder and the physical is the result. But he also said that that nothing is created that man does not first imagine. So to him, imagination is akin to God's creative force flowing through us. It's that powerful. So when people think, oh, I just made that up in my mind, he said, no, that's the very first step to all creation, is to imagine it. So this is another reading. Keep the pineal gland operating and you will not grow old. Do this by using the imagination. If one becomes too rigid in his ideas, senility can set in. So there's a pitch for continuing to learn and grow and experience new things right up to the end. Whatever the disturbance, do not lose the sense of humor, but be patient. Do show brotherly love and kindness. So that's interesting. He also said that humor was very important. That he said Christ laughed on the way to the cross, and we need to laugh as we carry our own crosses as well. Know that the body creates or will revive itself. Then keep the attitude of optimism and helpfulness to others, and this will make the same environment for self. Worry more about someone else than about yourself, and you will be a lot better off. So, and here's one: no one can hate his neighbor and not have stomach or liver problems. So, keep calm and meditate. So, Cayce did say that meditation was extremely important, both from a spiritual standpoint, but also because that really was, our body was created to meditate, and it was created to activate all of the glands in the body. The spiritual chakras have physical glands, and by meditating, you're really keeping them all coordinated and active and healthy and balanced. So, I have just a few more here. We find that all negative conditions existing in physical bodies are produced by mental and emotional attitudes that may be met, and by that he means need to be met. There are in truth no incurable conditions, though the mode of the plane's existence may be changed. And by that he says, you can cure yourself, although you might need to die to do it. But he's talking about reincarnation, and everything that you gain in this life is carried over to the next. So you will carry over that good health into the next life. But he's just admitting that sometimes this physical body may be so worn out that you're going to be incapable of actually making that change in the earth. Each ailment is the result of breaking of a law. The healing will of necessity come where there is compliance with other laws which meet the needs. So that's kind of saying that we're causing the ailments that we have, but by changing our attitudes we can move from karma to grace. That we can get that healing grace to actually help with the healing of the body. So, few conclusions. Health is both a natural gift from God and a responsibility to God. Remember to eat healthily and eat mindfully, exercise in moderation, make time for relaxation. And our attitudes and our emotions have a huge impact on our health. When treating disease or disorders, remember why you want the healing. What good are you going to do with it? Stay healthy. And that's it. And any more questions? Do I have time to play a song or two? How long are we supposed to go till?
Oh, it's just a little after 8.
So you go till 8:30, right? I mean, we can't go that late? Okay. Well, I brought my guitar. I thought I'd play a couple songs if you don't mind. One last point I wanted to make. You might think about this book, Healing the Soul by Lisa Weinrib and Gretchen Douthit. This was recommended by a friend of mine that's into the Cayce readings, and she has found out about this person. She worked at ARU Scottsdale, Arizona clinic, and she was in private practice, but what she realized was that when patients came to see her, she just knew what was wrong with them before she did any kind of tests. And after a while, she just realized that she needed to do something with that gift rather than just continue to be a doctor and go through all the examinations and tests and everything else. So she started working by treating and healing numerous people by working with their soul levels. So my friend Cecile is seeing miracles in her life and in the lives of her granddaughter and her daughter since she started since she had readings with this woman. So her email address is on the bottom, Dr. Lisa, DRLISA, at intuitivemd.com. And she does take appointments. Also, the book, Healing of the Soul, is available on Amazon if you're interested in buying a copy. And I guess there's a fairly large excerpt online that you can read before you choose to buy. So this is Cecile's comment, is having somebody from the ARE community that heals people almost the way that Cayce did is phenomenal. And she's just very excited that she's here and dedicated to helping people.
I was wondering if someone had continued his work, and it sounds a little bit like she has in a way.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, the work on the medical side is definitely continued, where there's lots of people that are affiliated with the Edgar Cayce Foundation that do natural healing and osteopathic treatments and chiropractic treatments and massage and those kinds of things.
Right.
But not so much actual health readings to diagnose people or give them a remedy.
And when you all gather, like I know that you meet several times a year at Unity in Wauwatosa, are you studying some of his work, or what are those gatherings about?
Oftentimes they are, but not always, because we just invite a wide range of people in to speak on spiritual topics.
I see.
So
not necessarily Cayce's.
No, not necessarily Cayce, but generally they're things that are very compatible with Cayce. So we have somebody coming to kind of talk about an introduction to heart math this next time, and I don't really know much about heart math, but I've been hearing people talk about it for years, so that's an example of, program that we're going to have shortly. Okay, so I've got a couple songs. And anybody else have another question?
Can you put the screen back with her email address?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Intuitive MD. Lisa.
I'll text you. I'll text you a.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Oh, I've got a couple songs about attitude here. What did I do? Just a second. I'll get you back to that. Do you still need it?
Did you get that?
She got it.
Dr. Lisa at intuitivemd.com.
She got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll just leave that.
There you go.
But I had
Faster than a speeding bullet. Did you get it?
I did too,
Oh, there's a spider on it.
but I just used my eyes and mouth.
A big one. And I have matching earrings. Oh, no. Well, that's
When
perfect.
the sun is covered by a cloud and it never rises anyhow, you think it's time to just throw in the towel. The world is going downhill fast. There's nothing good ever seems to last. Wonder what's the use in trying now. Just wait a minute. Think a better thought. This world can look a whole lot better than that dreary one you bought. So think a better thought. Our attitudes can shape our views, and emotions get tied in there too. So we think we see reality, but we don't. Look for light with all your mind, for what you seek is what you'll find. But if you're thinking that can't work, well then it won't. So wait a minute, think a better thought. This world can look a whole lot better than that dreary one you bought. So think a better thought. We have to understand that what we think changes the world we see. You can have two people in the same darn house, living different realities. Don't I know it? So heart and soul, compassion and love changes our ability to find the world is welcoming for everyone we see. Think a better thought. Just wait a minute. Think a better thought. Think it doesn't hurt to rationalize. Well, sorry you've been caught. So think a better thought. So catch yourself when you're feeling down and recognize you got a frown. Change your focus. We have that ability. At first it might seem a little forced, but it gets easier, of course, when we count our blessings, focus on the good we see. Wait a minute, think a better thought. You think it doesn't hurt to judge or wallow? Well, sorry you've been caught. Think a better thought.
That's kind of what Reverend Mary talked about, where she said we can, our world, our life is like clay, and we can mold it with our thoughts. So this is kind of a clever way to remember it. I can just roll around in the car and go, wait a minute, think a better thought. Like, thank you.
Go. Yes, there's Abraham would say pivot.
Right, yes.
Yeah. So this is a song that, this was an actual quote from Casey, "Why worry when you can pray?" And so I made this into a song. Why worry when you can pray? Why worry when you can pray? You need to learn to let it go, let fear wash away. Affirm the good, live like you should, and simply let go. Pray. Learn how to let go when you pray. God is always listening, but sometimes we can stray. We have to learn to get ourselves right out of the way. Let go of preconceptions, don't make exceptions. Just simply let go when you pray. We can't predict all aspects of an outcome, and attachment to results can set us back some. God don't need us to consult, just simply trust results to the source of all good. Let it unfold as it should. Just abide in faith and patience as you pray. Our natural state is health. Our natural state is wealth. Abundance from the Spirit expressed in the self. Not as easy as it sounds. That is what I found. But the first step is to let go. It's not enough to know it, we must live it. We can't expect the Spirit to just give it. If we cannot conceive, then we cannot receive. God's not being a jerk. That's just how it works. So abide in faith and patience as you pray. Learn how to let go when you pray. We have to learn to get ourselves right out of the way. Faith and patience carry us through each and every day. Affirm the best. Spirit does the rest. Just simply let go and pray.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pick one more song here. This is actually a song that I wrote to remind myself that that I have to love other people and realize that they're not all screwed up, and especially people with other political beliefs.
Right.
So one thing I do want to mention is Casey said that we do live in a three-dimensional world, but he said the three dimensions are time, space, and patience. And that is an amazing thing. You can spend your whole life trying to get a mastery on that. So, some folks don't have much to spend. Some folks, they have money. Some folks have religion. Some folks don't have any. But every life experience, it helps us form a view of what is good, what is false or true. Some folks love the city, some folks love the town, some folks love the country, no one else around. Each place shapes how we relate to reality we view. How I see myself and how I see through you. What I know is right is capital R right. What I know is wrong must be a sin. So I can spend my whole life trying to root out what is wrong, warning all those poor misguideds of the mess that they are in. I know that I'm right when I feel my anger rise. No need to analyze it, just hop on and ride. I can hold my opinions, but what I know is right. If I see the world as simply black and white. What kind of a world do we truly want to see? One filled with division or one of harmony? We can choose to see one family or choose to see the other. Cain or Abel, we just choose our favorite brother. Members of your family you may not see eye to eye, but because we know their story, usually we try. At worst we try to live and just let live. At best we find our strength and we forgive. Our comprehension's limited and small. We can never hope to understand it all. So we can choose to see one family or choose to see the other. Cain or Abel, we just choose our favorite brother. Yes, we can choose to see one family or choose to see the other. Cain or Abel, we just choose our favorite brother. Thank you very much. I get the feeling that I shouldn't have been doing this presentation though. I didn't catch your name.
Milwaukee.
You seem to know more than I do about the latest on holistic health. But it's been
I don't know
fun.
about that, but I do have an interest in nutrition.
Well, that was wonderful, Kevin.
It was
Yes,
wonderful.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
We'll finish tonight with the other side of the card. We're going to do the invocation or this light.
Maybe we should